The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Well, listen, my next guest this afternoon is lead investigator Mike Zullo with the Sheriff Arpaio Obama fraud case. And almost all of you that listen know this guy, Mike Zullo, and we've got a lot of new listeners as well. But I brought him on today because we've had the Alabama Supreme Court case that was brought forward last year has finally been announced. The decision in that concerning whether Alabama could investigate the qualifications of a presidential candidate, etc. Chief Justice Roy Moore, that's a name that everybody knows, was presiding over that case. The decision has come in, and it's kind of a mixed review. It's bad news in one way, but it's really, really good news in another way as well. So I've asked Mike Zullo to come on, and I believe attorney Larry Klayman is going to join us in a moment. He's the attorney for the plaintiffs. Mike, can you hear me? Are you with us? Mike Zullo.
Carl, how are you?
There you go. Don't scare me like that, man. What'd you do, walk away to get a cup of coffee or something?
No, I think you're looking at yourself on television.
That's what it is.
He is.
That's what it is. I'm looking. I just changed it. I'm all red in the face and I'm embarrassed. I was looking at myself on TV. But hey, there was a delay, man. Hey, get your coffee before the show. You don't walk away when I'm bringing you on the air.
I'm sorry, I won't do it again.
Okay. Well, listen, and we're hoping that attorney Larry Klayman will call up in a moment. But in the meantime,
Carl, Larry just called me on cell phone. He is in his car.
Yeah.
And the reception is just awful, so he's not going to be able to do it.
Okay. Well, we can get him on another time very soon. But in the meantime, I guess you'll have to do.
Yeah, we'll have to suffer through it.
I know. But listen, I know that you have been in touch with Larry all day today, and you and I have been in touch, so I know that you know this thing inside out. I know that you can speak very intelligently to it, so let me shut up, and you just tell people what's going on and say anything you want to say. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes before we go to a break, and then on the other side of that, we'll have a good 10, 12 minutes. So go ahead.
Well, as you know, the Alabama Supreme Court just ruled on the eligibility issue to have Barack Obama put on the ballot. And I don't think it was really any surprise. It did come back 7-2, obviously 7 against, 2 with a dissenting opinion. Judge Moore was one of those. And really, after reading this 80-page opinion on this, I don't really think this is any surprise. It comes back to a fundamental question, which is there really a statutory provision or a statutory framework that gives authorization or authority to the Secretary of State to investigate claims that one may put forward to challenge the eligibility of an individual.
Right.
And I don't really think I have seen that. I know it's not here in Arizona, and I don't think I've seen that really in any other state statutes that I've looked at where it is incumbent upon the Secretary of State to take that mantle and run with it.
Right. Right. Well, and I think that is the problem. I think you've nailed it. And listen, I got the opinion. But I didn't read all 80 pages, but I read about half of it. And, of course, we've got an article on P.P. Simmons, quite an extensive article, and a link to where people can read the opinion themselves. But, Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but, Mike, I came away with the feeling that even the guys that voted against this, they weren't really saying that we don't think we should vet the presidential candidate. They were saying we don't have the statutory authority in Alabama to do it, even if we wanted to.
Right.
And I agree with you, Carl, and I think that's pretty evident throughout it. I mean, you can see in some areas they were referring, this goes back to Congress, like you have been saying.
Right.
It's their job to do it.
It's
a federal issue.
It is.
And I think I gave you a statement early on. You know, the only way you stop this from going forward is to empower Secretary of States with the ability to request certain documentation and give them an investigator or two every 4 years to go out there and look into these issues if there is a problem. I mean, it should not be by any stretch an inconvenience for an individual born on United States soil to produce a valid birth certificate. In paper, authorized, documented, stamped, sealed, kissed, whatever it's got to be. It shouldn't be an issue to do.
Kissed, danced around, hocus pocus over. Listen, Mike, I'm going to read your statement that was given to the P.P. Simmons News and Ministry Network today, because it summarizes what you just said. It says what you said was the challenge before the American people going forward to prevent this type of atrocity from ever happening again has to be the creation of legislation providing legal authority to empower the Secretary of State in order to fully ascertain the most vital information of a candidate's qualifications, and to have the legal authority to require the one document that every American citizen gets as they draw their first breath, an official state birth certificate, which needs to be free from anomalies, errors, and questions. That was a brilliant statement, Mike.
Well, Starbucks will do that to you.
And a Holiday Inn Express.
There you go, brother.
You had a cup of coffee. Had a cup of coffee before you said that. Well, listen, I understand, but Mike, look. So what we need, I think, what we need to tell folks, and I'm going to say it, and then you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we need to let folks know, look, of course, those of us that have been on top of this for 5-6 years, we would have preferred the Alabama Supreme Court to have issued a ruling saying, yes, we're going to investigate the qualifications of this man. We don't think he's qualified. That would have been cool. But you and I, let's be candid, Mike, way back when this went to the Alabama Supreme Court, you and I both said we hoped for that, but we didn't think it was coming, because the question was going to be, do they have the authority to do that? And after much investigation, the Supreme Court has determined they really don't. Now, Judge Moore disagrees. He says that he believes there are mechanisms to make that happen, but 7 of the other justices disagreed. And they're not saying they don't think Obama's not qualified. They're just saying, we don't think we have the legal authority to do it. Now, if Alabama wants to change its laws, we'll be glad to. Isn't that kind of where we are with this?
It is. And Judge Moore keyed in on something that I had a discussion with 2 years ago with our Secretary of State, Ken Bennett, when he accepted actually it was a week or two before the verification came in. I know he was trying to get it. And I had said basically to him the same thing. Just because it isn't written in statute doesn't mean you can't do it. And, he looked at me like I had 7 heads.
I know.
Because the truth is, you could try to do something about it. And let's just put forth a scenario. Let's assume they did try to do something about it. Let's assume that they came to the same conclusions maybe Sheriff Arpaio did, that this thing is plagued with problems. That would be a little difficult for people to ignore when it's the Secretary of State of the state coming forward and saying, there's a problem.
Yeah, or a Chief Justice of a state Supreme Court.
Yeah.
That's true, too.
And that's the go ahead. You go ahead.
No, go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead.
Well, people want to hear you talk. Go ahead. That was me breaking in. You talk. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't want people to look at this and say, oh, it's just another, knock, we're done, we're going down in flames.
No, it's not.
I really don't think that's what it is. I think what you're seeing here is you're seeing the way our legal system has never anticipated a problem such as this.
Coming from the office of the president. That's right.
Right. There's no mechanism in place. And this has been one of our pet peeves going forward. And I say it's Sheriff Arpaio and myself.
Right.
We're not going to sit there and try to make up statutes to charge somebody under, try to level false accusations.
Right.
We're concentrating on a fraudulent document.
And Mike,
if the document on any capacity ever gets adjudicated and it's found to be fraudulent or not trustworthy, that opens up a whole can of worms that some other agency is going to have to pursue.
And Mike, you're brilliant. I mean, you just reminded me of something that an Obama birth certificate attorney, we wrote articles on it, you and I talked about it months ago. But do you remember the case where an eligibility issue, I think it went before the Georgia Supreme Court or maybe a federal court in Georgia, I don't remember, but they were going to argue the eligibility and whether or not he could be on the ballot, very similar to Alabama. And the attorney for Obama argued, it doesn't matter whether his birth certificate is legitimate or not. You don't have the authority to investigate it. You remember that?
I do. That was actually in New Jersey.
Okay. Well, there you go. New Jersey.
New Jersey occurs. New Jersey case that was argued, and that was what the Obama attorney said. I understand that. I don't know if she was fired after that or reassigned, but she was gone after making that comment.
Right. But now, listen, what she said was true, but the Obama camp just didn't want it admitted that was their defense. Okay, I mean, she didn't say these words, but I'm going to go ahead and paraphrase what she was really trying to say. Yes, he's ineligible. Yes, we know he's illegal. Yes, we know he shouldn't be in office. No, he doesn't have any identifying documents. But there ain't nothing you can do about it, New Jersey, because your statutes do not give you the authority to deal with this.
That's true, and that's why in the statement I said, if you want to prevent this from ever happening again, you've got a couple of years to put in legislation that could prevent this. I mean, it is nothing. If you think about it going forward, and let's say we just held this to a presidential standard, it is nothing for a state official to assign one investigator every 4 years to look into matters such as this. It costs almost nothing. And you ensure the authenticity of documents. You preserve the sanctity that's given to us as a voting populace in the most glorious country in the world. I don't understand what the issue is, why nobody wants to take a stand. It is virtually cost-free to have somebody do this every 4 years, because there's only going to be one or two challenges.
That's a great idea. I say Mike Zullo for president. Anyway, hey, Mike, listen, we got to take
but we need to see his birth certificate.
Yeah, we need to see your birth certificate, though, brother. I don't believe you were born in New Jersey.
I got to call Carl. Maybe
No. Hey, you weren't born in New Jersey. That accent's from Australia, brother. Hey, listen.
Actually, Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, you do have a street.
He's not from the United States, then.
Mike Zullo, you do have a street accent from New York or Jersey or something, man. I got to tell you, if you could come down south, we'd teach you how to talk like you're supposed to. Hey, Mike, listen, we're going to have to take a time out. When we come back, we got a lot more good stuff to talk about. Folks, you're listening to Freedom Friday with Carl Galsby.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.